All right, let's move on to the team over-unders. We're not going to do every single team. We just have a couple here. I can go first because we're talking about the Twins. I'm hammering the over on the Twins, Trev, and it's more for Minnesota's pride. If they don't get the over, I'm embarrassed for them.
I mean, I think they're a hell of a team.
It's 34.5. 34.5 is the over-under. I mean, I think they should have the best record in the AL if they are who everyone thinks they are. They have one of the weaker schedules for a team that's as good as they are. They can easily win the AL if they want to. If it's a real season, if it's not any, the crapshoot aspect is always there. I was expecting their over-under to be around 37, which is around 100 wins, which they did last year, right? And, they're playing less good teams, and they're playing more bad teams now. So I got the Twins over, and I think it's even low. I think, they don't hit it. I'm embarrassed for them.
Yeah, okay. Embarrassed is strong. I mean,
there's a lot of Twins fans coming at me all the time because they're telling me that I hate the Twins.
Right. Well, and that's what you're saying.
I think they can do it, and I think
the
they
White
should
Sox
do it.
are a lot better, and the White Sox can be a lot better.
Yes.
So that's the biggest change in division. And, I mean, it's just the 60-game season. That's why I take out the embarrassment part. I mean, you have a bad week to start, and the White Sox are good. Yep. Like, that 34 number is perfectly in play. So,
yeah, I might be doing a little hyperbole with the embarrassed,
okay.
but they should hit that over. I thought it was going to be higher than that.
Okay.
Trev?
It's a little bit of a leap of faith in this organization, but, the time has been coming for a long time for them to be good and be what they are. They've had a zillion guys in the top 100 prospects.
Mariners.
They have some decent starting pitching. They've invested a lot of money into this ball club, and I think it's, at least for this bet, going to pay off this year. I'm going to go the over 31 with the San Diego Padres.
Okay, interesting.
I've been thinking one game over 500. The NL West is not very deep. The AL West has some good teams, but again, not too bad. I think they can sneak out a season where they're one game over 500, and I think I'll cash that bet.
This is, I've been debating hopping on the Padres train. I like it. I mean, Tatis for a full year. If he can stay healthy, he could get some sneaky MVP love. We'll get there in a little bit. Yeah, man, I'd like them to get one more bat. I've been pushing for them to sign Puig thing. I think he'd actually be a fit, and he'd make that team really fun. I mean, you obviously can't do that right now. There's going to be a team in the NL West that's a layup. It's either going to be the Padres, the D-backs, or the Rockies. One of those teams is going to win a lot of games, and that's the fun of betting. So, yeah, I like that.
Thank you. You're up.
Yeah, I'm kind of a shrug on it. I could see it happening pretty easily, but I could also see it not happening. So I don't have a hard take either way. The pitching needs to really hold up.
A lot of young. A lot of youth.
A lot of young.
And look, if we're talking about a season where distractions are at a minimum for these young teams, it's this year.
I think it's the opposite, which is.
How so?
I think distractions are all-time high for teams. Boone's press conference today was, the only thing I'm focusing on is making sure that we don't let all of the distractions of this season get in the way of playing. And he said he did a whole meeting with every player, make sure you hold each other accountable because there's going to be a lot of distractions this year. So
what are the distractions?
Dude, getting tested twice a day, monitoring your health nonstop. You can't spit seeds. It's going to feel the least like baseball that these professional baseball players have ever felt. There's no
distractions. You can't go out.
The whole health thing is a distraction, Trev. They're not going to be able to exist on the field as they have their entire lives as baseball players.
I just agree to disagree because I think everyone's going to be a good boy in the hotel room. There's not going to be late nights out on the town. And because they have to hold each other accountable and not do all this stuff, I think it's going to play well for the younger teams.
I think the speculation is fun because you could go either way with this. You could go young guys are better this year because they're young and loose and doing it. You could go old guys because old guys are prepped and they're going to be professional and do their thing. There's less distractions off the field in theory. There could potentially be a ton with the COVID stuff and more so reporters and hammering that type of stuff into the ground. So
the thing is, there's no reporters. There's no reporters this year. You're going to have to do like a Zoom press conference, one or two guys after the game. The rest of the guys don't have to talk to anybody.
Yeah. You know what I like about the Padres? Their bullpen. They picked up a lot of bullpen arms. They got arms. Pomerantz. They got Pagan. Is that how you say his name? Emilio?
Yeah.
And
Pagan, Kirby Yates at the end.
Obviously, but Pomerantz and Pagan are new.
Yeah.
And if this is
and they've got a bunch of other young guys. So if
this is a weapon year out of the pen and stuff, that'll help them.
They've got arms, and Paddock's. Like, does Paddock take a leap? Do any of their other young arms take a leap?
I'll put the Padres as a first week team.
Okay,
like,
if they see that first week.
The first 2 weeks, if they get out to a bad start, I think they may never recover because they're like, hey, it's a development year anyway. If they get out to a hot start in the first 2 weeks, like the Mariners did last year, like think of how much that's going to help a team. Like the Mariners got the 2 weeks. If you're like 14 and whatever, you're going to be like, oh, shit, guys, we're halfway there, basically.
Yeah.
Just win 14 more, and we're in the playoffs.
I think every team last year had a stretch of 60 games that they were around 500, except the Tigers and the Orioles.
Yeah.
My two team ones that jumped out, I'm going to keep it on I-95. The Orioles are at 20.5, and I'm going under. And I just think the reason why is
the East.
In this shortened season, you're penciling in whatever wins you can. When teams are playing the Orioles, they're not normally in years you're saying like, hey, let's get our 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4. Let's win this series against the Orioles. They're a bad team. This year, teams are going to be saying we need to win every game against them. Yeah. So I think the Orioles are just going to get punched in the mouth.
Wait a minute.
Yes.
I don't know if it was last show or it was 2 shows ago. Both of you were saying the exact opposite thing. You're saying we can save Cole, Tanaka, and Paxton against the Orioles.
You misheard me, and I didn't correct you at the time. I did not. I said that save them in the NL East. Make sure you win the AL East. Like
Jimmy's all about the division, the actual AL East.
Like the Yankees need to go 9-1 against the Orioles.
Jimmy thinks a game against Tampa is essentially worth double than a game against the Braves this year.
It is.
In the AL East.
Yeah.
So that's that.
I think a game against the Orioles is more important than a game against the Nationals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sure, in division, yeah.
And
that doesn't make that much sense, man, because there's no divisional record. It's just overall record. So
yeah, but I mean the Orioles aren't a threat, so it doesn't work there. But for the Rays and the Red Sox, you give them a loss when you beat them. It's worth 2 points.
Sure, I mean, whenever you play somebody,
Yeah.
Well, in divisions, not for the Nationals.
And I fought that a little bit because I think the season's too tight as well, but I do get it. And
I like that one.
You'll see some of that. I just think, dude, think about all the good teams on the East Coast: the Nats, the Mets, the Braves, the Phillies, the Yankees, even the Jays, the Red Sox, and the Rays. All of those teams are saying when we play the Orioles, we need to sweep.
We better win 8.
So I think the Orioles might get tossed this year. So I'm going under on the O's, and I'm keeping it in the Beltway. And I'm going to go over for the Nats. I don't love the number 34, but I talked myself into the pitching thing, and I just think they've got horses, and I think those are very much going to play this year.
I loved your thought process that the hangover, they got to rest, man. They got to drink the water, have the Tylenol, and take a nap. They're good to go again. There's no World Series hangover.
The Mets lost Syndergaard. The baby Braves are going to be good. They did lose Donaldson. They replaced him with Ozuna, but I think what Donaldson did last year is more impactful. And I don't know. That Nats pitching staff, I mean, Scherzer and Strasburg don't have to do it over a full year. I think
Corbin,
those guys are just going to shove. So I'll go with it. I'm basically flip-flopping on what was my whole offseason take of the Nats pitching staff and old men not being able to carry it out. But I actually love them in this shortened season.
I'm going to keep it with Jake because you're talking about the NL East, so I'll stay there.
Sure.
It's not an over-under for a team bet. I didn't have an under, but I don't know how to phrase this. Don't hold me to this, but I'm interested in this bet.
Okay.
So it's I think it's plus 200. And it's will the Phillies make the playoffs? And
Okay.
what I'm doing is just putting trust in Girardi, because if there's two things Joe Girardi's good at as a manager, one, navigating a bullpen to make sure you have arms when you need arms at the pen, which I think is going to be crucial for a short season. Two, keeping his players on fucking edge and making sure they understand every game is important. It's why he got run out of New York and they didn't want him anymore, because he made the Yankees too tight.
Yeah.
They were wound too tight. Every game, they said he made it feel like it was do or die. That may play. We've also seen Joe Girardi take some god-awful Yankee teams, 2013, 2014, even 2015 in a way, and make them 90-game winners or competitors. So I don't like it. It's not a lock, but I'm interested in, if all they have to do is get a wild card spot, I think Joe might be able to wring out a bunch of wins out of that team.
And keep in mind, the expanded postseason is still on the table.
Well, that would change all of these
I
bets,
know.
yeah.
It's crazy. They're still talking about, like, there's still time to come to an agreement. There hasn't been a mandation just yet. So that would be interesting. They're one of my favorite teams to watch this year because, like, they're in win now mode. They went out and spent $1 zillion on Bryce Harper. They spent a ton of money on Andrew McCutchen. They haven't really received much out of those two acquisitions yet. But these guys are, I mean, Bryce Harper could be the MVP this year, and no one would bat an eye.
Is D-Rob healthy now?
A lot of people get mad.
D-Rob is healthy?
I don't know. I'm asking.
He is.
He's
And
supposed to be coming back at least, yeah.
And when we talked to him, he said he was like, I'm on path to crash.
if there's one team, and, like, obviously I have a little bit of a history with these guys, this team is, like, they're going to be in it to win it. To get to the postseason, they are going to be playing with that fire because they were a disappointment last year. You know, in a season when you had World Series expectations and then just didn't happen, whether it was from injuries, people not living up to their potential, whatever it was. They're hungry this year, and they have a bunch of guys, a bunch of kind of like alpha dudes that, like, know that happened last year and they don't want it to happen again. So, like, those clubhouses, you're going to have that feeling in every clubhouse, but this one, it's going to be emphasized. Like you're saying, even Joe Girardi is going to be pushing them. And if I know Harper, like, he's going to be leading the charge in that clubhouse, like, wanting to get to the playoffs. He has a chip on his shoulder. The Nationals won the World Series last year. He came out and said he was very happy for them. I'm sure he was, but let me tell you something. That's gotta hurt.
Yeah, I mean, I like it because you're getting a return on the bet too.
The pitching's just scary, and they've basically got to be better than one of the Nats or the Braves, and I can't see that. I mean, let me say, I can see anything in a 60-game season, but that lineup needs to be, like, deadly.
Mm-hmm.
And their two studs, Nola and Wheeler, have to be complete studs.
Yep.
Which, hey, all of that can happen, but yeah. But that's why it's got a decent payout. So I like that.
Yeah. Did you have another team, Trev?
I mean, look, I'm going to go the same way that Jake went with the Orioles. If you look at the Central Division, you see who's there. You got the Tigers. They're just not a really good baseball team, man.
Yeah.
And they're at 21.5 over under. Seems like easy pickings right there with that under. You know,
and baseball,
teams are going to be fighting the entire
way.
Yeah, I mean,
baseball's been trending that way. Like the Astros, Yankees have put up big win numbers in recent years, and other baseball teams are fine with quote unquote tanking. Like, and I feel like Vegas kind of hasn't realized that yet.
A team like the Tigers is going to use this as a development year. They're going to put some guys in the position in the big leagues to have some at-bats that maybe aren't ready, but they want to get them some exposure to big league at-bats. When you're doing that throughout the season all year, it's not going to be good for you. I love Gardenhire. Great guy. He knows what he's in for there. He knows that he's there to help these guys develop, and probably by the time that they get good, he's going to retire. But that looks to me like I just like when you brought up the Orioles, and I'm looking through this again, I saw the Tigers. I'm like, that's the same story for the Tigers.
Yeah. It's true.
Maybe a little bit lesser of a division in the Centrals, but there's still enough good teams there. And, like,
They don't get to play
I think
themselves.
the Tigers might be worse than the Orioles.
The only difference
They
is
were.
the Royals. The Royals aren't going to be going in and saying, like, we got to get our wins against the Tigers, because I think the Royals also don't care about winning that much either. So those are the only 10 games, which makes up a good chunk of the 60-game schedule, where I think literally every team, even the baby Jays right now, because they got all that pitching and all that young talent, even they think they can get a wild card spot if they just crush the So I do slight difference, but I agree. I mean, everyone's going to do it, but those 10 games against the Royals, maybe they don't care.
Me Reiki.